These are some of the worst investments I've ever seen as a certified financial planner. Check this out. So these hidden fees, these are fees that you don't always see because they're very difficult. And I spent the majority of my early career in financial planning trying to find out more about these fees and be very transparent. Now, I'm going to go over these in detail in today's video, but please know my job truly is not to beat anyone up. I joke that I'm the meanest advisor on YouTube, but I promise I'm not mean. I'm very transparent because my parents were burned by multiple advisors, which has caused them to have to work into their 70s. Luckily, they like what they do, but if it was up to them, they wouldn't be working to the degree that they are now. Once again, I'm lucky that they like what they do. They make a lot of movies, specifically documentaries, and my parents actually made the movie The Vow, if you've ever seen it, Rachel McAdams and Channing Tatum. So that was a fun movie that they actually won an Emmy for. So actually, I'm trying to think. I don't think it was that movie. I think it was a separate documentary they won the Emmy for. But you can always check out their stuff just for fun. It is my last name, Taublieb, films.com. Now, let's get into today's video. Now, I have to be really careful when I say worst investments because obviously it depends on what someone views as a good or bad investment. I have people who go, oh my gosh, real estate is just the best investment ever. I'm so glad I own this property. But in reality, it's something that just takes a lot of their time. So for some person, they might go, this is amazing. Yeah, I have to make sure I'm managing the tenants. And if the roof leaks, I'm fixing that. And I have a property manager and I'm using depreciation to the nth degree and I'm being really wise. And someone might look at that and go, this is a great investment, but if it takes so much of your time, is it worth it? There are certain people that go, I'm sure it's great, but it's just not worth my time. So today, the investments I'm talking about are specifically regarding the stock market. I'm not going into detail on real estate or annuities, which I do beat up a good amount, I will admit, although there's types of annuities. So by no means am I an anti-annuity guy. I am a pro, whatever makes most sense for your situation guy. Now, with that being said, if you check out my screen here, there's so many different ways I can go about this. This is called an equity sector comparison. So I could talk about how much of your portfolio should be in financial services or real estate or communication or energy or industrials, but I would put many of you to sleep. And that's not what my plan is today. Now, do I secretly want to go into depth on that? Maybe. And some of you might be itching for that too. And if you are, let me know in the comments because I want to nerd out with you. But I'm trying to be really specific so I can make the most of our time together, excuse me. So I want to show you these hidden fees and I'm going to show it to you through an example of a portfolio from someone who reached out to me. So this was in January of 2024. I prepared this for a client. They wanted me to look at their investments and they had a lot of different investments. You can see here, they have an artisan small cap fund, an T. Rowe Price fund, and an MFS Lifetime 2050 fund, all these different things in here. And the first thing that I look at here when I review an investment analysis is a target date fund. This target date fund has no idea about this specific client's goals. So pretend you own currently a target date fund. It's not bad. A target date fund is like going to Vaughn's or Albertsons or Pavilions. It's like there's going to be food there. You're going to be fine. But you might want to be the person, I know personally, I go to the dollar store for paper plates and I go to Whole Foods or Publix, as many of you tell me. I don't live on the East Coast, but for salmon or steak as an example. So I'm not saying all these are good or bad, but if you just get everything from one store, you're just probably not doing as good as you possibly can. Not the end of the world here, but this 2050 target date fund, they have no idea if you want to retire early and you need income for 50 years, or you want to retire and have income for 30 years. They don't know about your part-time income or healthcare or withdrawal strategy. It just doesn't know you. So it's just a blanket thing. And when I see a 2050 fund and a 2025 fund and Vanguard and a lot of cash, you have so many moving pieces here. It's impossible to actually have a really, really dialed in portfolio. And the truth is, and I share this a lot of you, I'm very honest, I'm going to make myself big here for a second. A lot of you think you're a brilliant investor, which is literally the equivalent of saying, I am a brilliant mechanic because I know how to put gas in my car, okay? So I'm not here to beat any of you up, but I personally thought I was a great investor until I had a financial advisor show me my shortfall. So want to make sure we're always being transparent with one another. I'm not trying to be mean here. Some of you go, but you just don't know me. I've just got it. Warren Buffett would have called me if he had my cell phone number, but I'm just being honest with you guys. So as always, thank you for watching my videos. We're going to get right back to today's video, but first, check this out.
Gary, what is this?
Aloha, babe. Come sit down. I saved you a seat. The luau is about to begin.
I said I wanted to visit Hawaii, not experience it.
Consumer Report says this is a much better value. So put them on. Enjoy. We'll be in Hawaii.
Oh, Gary.
Haven't you been saving long enough? Talk to a Root financial advisor and get the most life out of your money.
Look, we're fire dancers.
Oh, you burned me.
Now, hopefully you laughed a little bit and that was a fun commercial. But the reason we made it is to show yourselves, hey, if I did save and invest well, maybe I should take the trips to Hawaii. Maybe I should consider retiring earlier or redating my spouse. Maybe it's been a while because you've been working for 30, 40 years. And you don't have as much time to dedicate to one another. So we always say the sign of a good financial plan is a life well lived. Now let's get back to today's video. This is a portfolio. You can see there's $4.4 million across many different accounts. And here is their top holding. So this is number one, just kind of common mistakes I see. They own this one mutual fund and this mutual fund and this mutual fund and this one and so on. And they're all owning the same thing. They're paying a lot of fees to own Microsoft. So what you should do in this case is identify how much Microsoft do you want? Pretend it's 5%. And then determine which mutual fund should own that versus paying this fund and this fund and this fund all to own Microsoft. So if I scroll down here, there's a lot I want to cover here, but if I scroll down here, and I look at all of the fees, which is what I started today's video with, you can see them in a very clear way. So I'm going to walk you through it. You see this Artisan Small Cap Investor Fund, ARTSX, that is an expense ratio of 1.2%, which means if you get a 10% return, you didn't. You got an 8.8% return. Now, there's nothing wrong with fees. Once again, let's use my grocery store. I am happy to pay extra for steak if it's a good steak. What you don't want to do is pay a lot of money for a fund that does not do well. And historically, it's proven that the expense ratios that go above 0.2% historically do not actually outweigh the fee. Why is that? Well, there's certain years where it will outperform, and then there's other years where it will not. For example, and I'm going to do this in real time with you. You can see I'm not faking this in any way. I'm searching with you right now. ARTSX. I'm doing it right here with you. So let's see where it is year to date. So year to date, ARTSX is down 4% versus the S&P 500, SP 500, year to date is up 6%. Now, you don't just want to look at it in that time frame, but if we go to 5 years, S&P 500 is up 94%, ARTSX, let's see if it's up really well, down 17%. So the question here is for this, just as an example, I'm not trying to cherry pick, I just picked the one at the top here. You could see, would it be worth paying this fee and underperforming? Obviously not. So I'm by no means saying that one fund is a bad fund, but we want to make sure if we're paying $11,000 a year nearly, or 20% of the portfolio, that we're being intentional in getting value for it. So if we go through every single investment, you could see some here are 1.26%. Some are really low, like 0.08%. Now, does that mean we want to have that fund? No. You can do the same thing I just did, VTSNX here, and you can see year to date, it's done well. Is it because it's a magical fund? No, it's because international has done well. So if you go over the last year, it's done well, but 5 years, 33% is way less than the S&P 500. So you don't want to ever cherry pick, but it's something that we want to consider. Now, if we go into more detail here, why is this so important? It's so important because if we look at someone's investments as an example, this is software that we talk about often. Let me just show you this right here. If I go ahead and I turn on asset allocation right here, this is a software in the description you all can play with, by the way. If I do that, their current allocation here, I can switch to be, let's just say, most aggressive, just to use an example here. If I were to switch that, you can see here, if I put everything back to the base case, so to give you a sense here, here's someone that's 55 and 54, and they have $987,000. If they wanted the most aggressive portfolio, you can see it would yield a $900,000 difference over the course of their lifetime. Instead of passing away with 2.8, they'd have 3.7. What if they said, no, we just want a really preservation portfolio? That's like 3-4% growth, really minimal. You can see here, well, they'd be okay, but there'd be way less money at the end. So it's not a right or wrong, but what we don't want to do is just pick blindly. And you want to make sure your whole portfolio is being looked at in a really optimal manner, because I just went through 2 quick examples here. The truth is we'd want to stress test this. We'd want to look at this in more detail and look at overall returns of the portfolio. We'd want to make sure that our stock analysis is optimized and that we don't have too much in one section of our portfolio. You can see they have almost 90% in North America. I like that closer to about 60, 65%. You can see they have 87% in stocks. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but we'd want to really look at this in more detail here. So hopefully this was helpful. In terms of the kind of top 3 worst investments, literally the title of this video, when I'm looking at this, that the top 3 that I see oftentimes are just not necessary are those target date funds. So a target date fund is something like this, where it's a 0.83% actual expense ratio per year, and it's a 5.75% sales load. What is a sales load? That's an upfront fee. So if you bought this for $100,000, $5,750 or 5.75%, that comes out right off the top. So now we're already at a loss. So we really have to do well, and we want to make sure if we're paying $4,200 a year, we're getting value for it. Another one here is that Artisan Small Cap Fund. And then the third kind of top worst investment, in my opinion, are when people go and they have so many different types of companies that are, so you're creating overlap. So you have a Vanguard fund and a T. Rowe Price fund and a Guggenheim fund and an Artisan fund. And we saw that through this example up here. I used Microsoft as the first example, but you can see it's almost across the board. Amazon, they have 1.89% and they own it in this fund, in this fund, in this fund, in this fund. So what happens is it's almost like you're going unnecessarily to the grocery store and pretend that you wanted 3 apples, just as an example. Just go to Vaughn's and buy 3 apples. You don't need to get, 1.2 apples from one store and 1.4 from the other store and then, 0.4 from another store. Like, you can own it more effectively to reduce fees. Imagine you went and checked out at the grocery store and you paid for paper bags for all of them, but it wasn't just apples, it was for all sorts of groceries. You're just not owning it as efficiently. You don't need 3 grocery carts and make 3 different trips. Like, you can simplify your portfolio and do just as well. Now, today was heavy on that investment side. If this resonated with you, let me know. I love making these videos for you. I do it all for free right here on YouTube. If you want holistic financial planning so that you can spend your time on what matters most with who matters most in your retirement, that's what we love to do here at Root Financial. I encourage you to reach out and we'll talk to you soon.